Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I think we reached up to cosmic imagination, if I'm not mistaken, right, guys? Or is my mind deceiving me? I feel like we're starting a new chapter. So this is chapter 7 of the book Sufi Path of Knowledge, lesson like 26 or something like that. Okay, and this flows very nicely from the previous chapter as well, and it connects to it very nicely. Okay, so I'll just start reading, inshallah. Bismillah. So Professor Chittick says, no one will find true knowledge of the nature of things by seeking explanations in either or, in dichotomies, right? The real situation, reality itself, will have to be sought in both and or neither nor. Ambiguity does not grow up simply from our ignorance. It is an ontological fact inherent in the nature of the cosmos, right? Ambiguity does not indicate that we are ignorant, but so the ontological fact means the root of our realities. The root of our reality is that there is something ambiguous. Nothing is certain but being itself with a capital B. Yet it being with a capital B, that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the coincidence of opposites. Jama' al-addad or Jama' al-addad, afwan. The combination of opposites or when the opposites are brought together. So this is a really interesting axiom in Islamic metaphysics. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or God, is known through the meeting of opposites. Um, what are some examples that maybe come to your minds?
Jalal and Jamal.
Yeah, exactly. So when Jalal and Jamal, so that means beauty and majesty come together, you get Kamal, which is perfection. You find this in the Quran as well, in many places actually. It's the very nature of the Quran to bring together opposites. So Surah Hadid, you get هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. So he's the first and the last, and the outward and the inward, right? And he knows each and everything. So Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz, one of the major Sufis, said, I have come to know God through the meeting of the opposites. So when the first meets the last, or when the outward meets the inward, it's through that combination that I know Allah. What's called the coincidence of opposites. Coincidenta oppositorum. Okay. Um, yeah. The deeper we delve into the nature of existence, the more clearly we are faced with this fundamental ambiguity. Everything that exists in the cosmos takes its existence and attributes from the divine reality. By affirming the reality of the thing, we affirm the reality of God, but at the same time, we deny that the thing is God, right? The thing is only God in its existence and attributes, not in its specific existential thingness, where it is precisely the thing. So, this is the nuance that's hard to understand about wahdat al-wujud, but once you get it, it's really not that complicated. And we've talked about this before, when you simplify wahdat al-wujud, people say God is the thing, God is the universe. So it's kind of like heretical. Well, Sheikh al-Akbar is never a mix-up of identities. The thing is the thing, and God is God. The Lord is the Lord, and the servant is the servant. There's no mix-up. The thing or the creation is God with respect to its wujud, its its being, its existence, and its attributes. Because the attributes that we possess actually belong to Allah. And the existence through which we become manifest belongs to Allah. But the thing as a thing is not Allah, right? Uh, yes, what Young says, holding the tension between opposites. Yeah, yeah. So the anima and the animus is a good example. That means the male principle and the female principle. Exactly. So actually, the mightiest form of bringing together is male and female. You'll find that in Fas Muhammad in the Fusus al-Hikam. That's the mightiest form of um, opposites coming together. And that's actually where you get the greatest vision of God. The more one discusses the situation, the more language becomes convoluted and the observers and listeners confused and bewildered. This is as it must be, since the universe is he, not he, huwa la huwa. The universe is him in some respect, but it's also not him in another respect. Huwa la huwa. The clearest access shared by all human beings to the nature of existence, which is everything other than God, is our own imagination, especially dreams. The more deeply we delve into our own imagination, the more clearly we see that its characteristics coincide with those of existence itself. Just as, so for example, just as our imagination is the barzakh, it's the isthmus between our spirits and bodies, so also existence is the barzakh between being and nothingness. Everything that we observe in imagination on a microcosmic scale takes place on a macrocosmic scale in the non delimited world of imagination, which is, I think, عالم الخيال المطلق or عالم الخيال الغير المقيد غير مقيد. Just as the world we observe in dreams is spiritual and corporeal, intelligible and sensory, meaning and form, so also the world that God observes in his dream is built of being and nothingness. What does God's dream mean? It's existence. So the whole, did we cover this already? The universe is God's dream. If we have not covered it, we're going to cover it soon, inshallah, because it should be in this chapter, if not the previous one. The universe is his dream, which is why, in that sense, it doesn't really possess any kind of substantiality, any kind of like independent existence. Like our existence is dependent upon his existence, his being aware of us. We possess no independent existence in and of ourselves. We covered in the very beginning model, so that means I said it, but there's an actual passage, which is a beautiful passage, which we should have read or it's coming up. So there will be a passage on God's dream, inshallah ta'ala. Um, obviously that's like a metaphor, right? So when we talk about our own dreams on the microcosmic scale, what does it mean to say that we observe what we observe in dreams is spiritual and corporeal, intelligible and sensory? Why is that the case? Because in a dream, you see images, don't you? Yeah, go ahead, Ravina.
Yeah, basically, in a dream, we see images, and those images usually, like, for instance, if I see you in my dream, it's because you exist in this world, in the material world. However, your reality in my dream is just a vision, which is not material. So it's both and neither in a way.
That's true. Imagine this. You have one level, that's the physical world. One above that level is the worlds of imagination, let's say the dream. In this case, the dream. One above that level is the world of meanings, the world of spirits. So dreams are a midway point. Dreams are a midway point between the physical world below it and the spiritual world above it. Does that make sense? So in a dream, what happens is that it pulls up images from the physical world, right? And then, or you could say, let's start the other way around. Spirits or meanings descend, come down from the world of spirits into a dream. And then the dream pulls up an image from the physical world and clothes the meaning in that form. Which is why dreams are weird. Because the image is what I'm familiar with seeing in real life, but in the dream, it means something else. Because the meaning that's attached to it is a different one to the one we see in this physical world. It's not exactly the same. Which is why you must interpret dreams. There must be interpretation. You cannot take a dream at face value 90% of the time. So that's why we have the hadith that we came across. Rasulullah, he sees himself drinking milk in the dream and he passes it on to who? Umar bin Khattab, right? Milk in real life is just milk. It's sweet, delicious, and it nourishes the body. In a dream, what does milk mean?
Knowledge.
In a
Knowledge,
dream,
yes.
in a dream, milk is knowledge. So it's knowledge that literally descended from the world of spirits into the dream, but it requires a form. You cannot digest the knowledge or absorb the knowledge unless it comes to you in a form when we're talking about dreams. So it takes on the form of milk for many reasons. There's another episode where the Sheikh Akbar recounts one of the Mutakalimun, I forgot his name, but it's in the Fusus Hikam. And he has a dream where he's drinking milk. So then he wonders to himself, is that just like a nafsani dream? Is that like an egotistical dream, or did I actually drink milk in the dream? Right? I wonder what happened. So what does he do? He does a strange experiment. He sticks his fingers down his throat to force himself to vomit. And what does he vomit? Now this is in real life. This is in real life. Yeah, he vomits the milk. But then the Sheikh Al Akbar says something interesting. Because milk is knowledge in a dream, that mutakallim, that theologian, scholastic theologian, he vomited out knowledge. So he probably shouldn't have done that. Whatever knowledge he acquired in a dream, he literally vomited it out in real life. Yes, go ahead, Irvina.
This is very interesting. I think you mentioned it previously as well. Um, so in a way, the milk in the dream became the material milk, right? It became material. It became physical
Yeah,
in this case. And
yes.
how would we connect the physical milk now with knowledge? And I come across that many people are lactose intolerant nowadays, cannot drink milk. And is there any connection to knowledge as well?
No, ordinarily we shouldn't mix up the two. But if you find yourself lactose intolerant in a dream,
Mhm.
I wonder if that means if you have a um, what's hassasiyah? If you have an allergy, I wonder if it means you have an allergy to knowledge, to a certain kind of knowledge.
Mm.
If you see that in a dream, but in real life, no, there's no connection. But you raised an interesting point. If that's the case, then why was it that this theologian was able to vomit up physical milk? Because first of all, we see that in many accounts where what happens in the dream transfers over into this world. That happens many times. But secondly, this world in itself, Urbina, is what? It is a it is a dream in itself. And therefore, the actions that we do in this world and everything we see in this world also requires an interpretation. So this is like very inception level. So when you're sleeping, you're in a dream within a dream, literally. So what that means is right now we're in a dream, which is why we have the saying that's attributed to the Prophet Muhammad SAW or to Sayyidina Ali, which is what? People are asleep. And when they die, they what?
They awaken.
They wake up. They wake up. So right now we're in a dream. Right now. And then when you sleep, you're just in a dream within a dream, which is very inception like. So that's why I think Irvina, because you're this property is transferring from one dream to another dream, which is this world, which is why it can happen. So another example, just to illustrate your point, Irvina, is Sheikh Abdul Ghani Nabosi, the major Hanafi Sufi Akbarian. of the 17th century of Ottoman Empire, right? I think it's the 17th century, isn't it? 16th, 17th, 18th century. Yeah. Not that long ago. He had a student, and so the student saw in a dream that the sheikh, and he's a major sheikh, like he's a very serious spiritual student, probably the kutub of his time. He gave the student an ijaza, which is a certificate and permission to teach something in a dream. So the student thought, fantastic. I'm going to go to the sheikh and get the certificate in real life. So he went to the sheikh and said, and told him about the dream, and said, "Can you please officially give me the certificate?" So Sheikh Abdul Ghani Nabulsi got angry and scolded the student and said, "I already gave it to you. Do you see? Like, why are you denigrating the level of the dream as if it were less than this world? I gave it to you. It's done." Anyways, it's a really fascinating topic. So, okay, where did we reach up to? Yes, Sahar, go ahead.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
It's very interesting. I just entered the room with the dream, and I feel like sharing this. I've been recently dreaming of numbers, like
Oh, okay.
numbers of fours.
Huh. Yeah.
Like the yesterday, I had a dream of 1607. And before that it was another number as well. It's very interesting. So it has meaning though.
Yeah, it would have meaning.
They sound
I-
like lotto numbers to me.
What's that, Tamara? What's that?
What is it called? What's the international place where you put these numbers and you win
Lottery,
gazillions of
lottery.
Yeah, lottery.
Oh,
like
I hope.
Yeah, they
Wallahi,
sound like lottery numbers to me.
okay, that's amazing. Thank you. But it's very interesting. Yani, it's very interesting. It's like four numbers. I like a dream of like of combined like four numbers like the no actually three 271. I've dreamt of 271 as well. It comes like very interesting, very vivid يعني.
You know, Sahar, I wouldn't be surprised if that number corresponds to something in the Quran, because there's many kinds of numbers you can calculate from the Quran, many kinds, and they all have like a meaning. So the Shaykh Al-Akbar was like an expert in that, but I don't know like half of the numbers that he calculates. But like so, okay, maybe we should try to remember it 1607 and see if we ever come across it somewhere. But it has a meaning. I have no idea what it means though.
Oh, beautiful. But it's, I mean, to be linked to with Quran, because I sleep with Quran on every night. So it could be it, maybe.
No, it probably would be, because you know, like you can calculate you can calculate the number of each harf, each letter in the Quran, each verse. Like each one has a certain number. And, but
Beautiful.
but it needs like an expert to tell you what that means.
Lovely. جزاكم الله كل خير يا رب.
Allah barak fiki. Zanira, go ahead. But just before you talk, I want to say, so that's a really good point. الناس نيام فإذا ماتوا انتبهوا. So awaken doesn't really mean awaken. It means, because Sheikh Afifi pointed this out, the actual hadith means they come to attention. They become attentive of what they were really doing in this world. Yes, go ahead, Zanira.
Assalamu alaikum.
And welcome back.
Oh, thanks. Happy to be here. I was just also thinking about like how I think according to the hadith, I'm not sure, but there's like different types of dreams. That there's dreams that are from Allah and there are dreams that are from the nafs, like our subconscious mind, and there's dreams from shaitan. So
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, in
Yes.
every dream. So that, and then also I think there's like a prophecy for the end of times that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that prophetic dreams, dreams that come true, I guess, without interpretation, like things actually happen just the way you saw it, will increase near the end times. And that dreams or
The
prophetic
رؤية
dreams,
the رؤية الصادقة. Yeah.
right, and that they are 1/40th, I think, of prophecy. And yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say was about like just when you said dreams are weird, I was like, wow, that's an understatement because sometimes I don't even know what's going on, especially if I go to sleep after reading Quran, after reading Surah Baqarah, I don't know what's going on in the dream. But also, I guess
Yeah, yeah.
in English, we have a saying as well, like fever dreams, which is also so interesting because like it's like something so bizarre, like you just don't know how you can even your mind can even come up with this stuff, and like you couldn't start to form an interpretation. So sometimes I feel like you have to wake up and move on in life and be like, oh, I'm not even going to try because like I don't know where there's just like, I don't know, like animals jumping on a trampoline or making spaghetti. I don't know. It's just really random stuff sometimes, right? But I wanted to say about like what you said about the sheikh giving the person the ijaza. Um, there's also like people that do that's what he was doing, but in a good way. He was basically astrally projecting into that person's dream. And so like, in the spirit, he got out of his body and he went into that person's dream, in his to his student's dream. And so for him it was very real. But evil people can also do that. And shaitan can do that. And so I think there's a hadith where Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, whoever has seen me in a dream has seen me when he's awake, because the devil does not take my shape. The shaitan cannot take his form. And that implies that the shaitan can take the form of others besides Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's something to think about, because sometimes people, yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
You know, okay, so let me look more into this. But I don't believe the shaitan will take on the form of a wali. I don't think so. I don't think that's
Yeah,
possible.
I don't think that. I mean, I'm just saying, like sometimes the form of loved ones, or like people that we know in real
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
yeah,
of
things like
course.
that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So, and then we don't know what it means. Of course. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, totally. This is very true. Which is again why dreams require an interpretation. So yeah, that's right. Um, there's lots of fascinating things that happen in dreams, but let's carry on. Honestly, it's an incredible subject. So, okay. Uh, when we wake up and want to understand our dreams, we try to interpret them or go to an interpreter to do this for us. So, also when we die and thereby wake up to the cosmic dream of God, we will find the interpretation of our dream, even though that waking up is itself another stage in the cosmic dream. Without knowledge of imagination and its functioning on whatever level is envisaged, many fundamental religious teachings cannot be understood. That's really important, by the way. Hmm. Yeah, the imagination is key, actually. This is one of his arguments that the West has lost access to imagination, which is why it has lost access to a fundamental layer of reality and therefore understanding religion. It is because of their ignorance of imagination that the peripatetic philosophers, that means the followers of Aristotle, and the theologians insisted upon interpreting, that is, explaining away, that means ta'wil, all the revelational data that does not accord with the laws of logic and reason. So this is a big subject in Kalam, in debates, where things that are said to be impossible are given like a rational interpretation, which one should not do. Others simply gave up trying to understand such things and said, God says so, so it must be true. But this is not to give intelligence its full credit, since there are modes of gaining knowledge of the true situation through the power of imagination, which can perceive the divine self disclosures for what they are. Ibn Arabi's dialectic of negation, nafi, and affirmation isbat is hardly new in Islamic thought. The Quran often negates the very things it affirms, a fact that has led to a great deal of theological squabbling. We have seen a few examples of the Quranic mode of combining affirmation and negation in the opposing and contrary divine names, or in some of Ibn al-Arabi's favorite verses, such as لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing like him, and he's the hearing and seeing. The most concise traditional expression of the form of this dialectic is found in the Muslim declaration of faith, the way they're saying, Shahadat, there is no God negation, but God affirmation, right? Which is the heart of Islam. Okay. And then we get into he, not he. Um, the Quranic verse that Ibn Arabi cites more often than any other to show the radical ambiguity of existence was revealed after the Battle of Badr, which turned in favor of the Muslims when the Prophet ﷺ picked up a handful of sand and threw it in the direction of the enemy. Concerning the Prophet's throwing of the sand, the Quran says, "You did not throw when you threw, but God threw." So that would be negation, affirmation, and negation, right? The verse affirms the individual reality of the prophet, then negates it by saying that God, in fact, was the reality behind the appearance. In a, in a passage about the one entity, sheer being, al-wujud al-mutlaq, and the effects of the names which become manifest as the names which become, wait, sorry, and then the effects of the names which become manifest as the entities of the possible things, the Sheikh concludes there is none in being or existence but God. So then he continues. But the clear formulation of this question is terribly difficult. Verbal expression, ibara, falls short of it, and conceptualization, tasawwur, cannot define it because it quickly escapes and its properties are contradictory. It is like his words, you did not throw, so he negated. When you threw, so he affirmed. But God threw, so he negated the engendered existence, kawn, of Muhammad and affirmed himself as identical with Muhammad, since he appointed for him the name God in that passage. Right? That's very like quite literal. You did not throw when you threw, but God threw. Now, obviously, the physical form that threw was Muhammad, but the meaning was God. The meaning was Allah. The Zahir was Muhammad, but the Batin was Allah. Right? In discussing the lover, Muhib, a name which applies both to the servant and to God, Ibn al-Arabi declares that the lover is obliteration in affirmation, mahu fi ithbat, and cites a number of Quranic verses that allude to this point. The affirmation of the servant as lover becomes manifest in the fact that religious prescriptions, taklif, are made for him. His obliteration in the midst of this affirmation appears in God's words, God created you and what you do, and nothing of the command belongs to thee. Surely the command belongs to God entirely. You did not throw when you threw, but God threw. And expend of anfiqu, expend of that in which he has made you vicegerents. This is all an extremely clear explanation of obliteration in affirmation in God's book. The lover has no free disposal, he has no tasarruf, except in that for which God disposes him. I think this him should be with a lower H. No? The lover has no free disposal, except in that for which God disposes him with a lower H. I don't see why that's capital H. His love has put him at a loss to desire anything other than what is desired for him. In actual fact, the reality refuses anything but that. Everything that appears from the lover is God's creation. And the lover is the object of the act, maf'ul, not the agent, fa'al. Hence, he is the locus within which affairs take place, so he is obliterated in affirmation. As for the obliteration in affirmation of God, considered as the lover, that is as follows. The eye falls only upon the act of the servant. So, this is the obliteration of the real. Like, you don't see God when the servant is acting, so God is quote unquote obliterated. But rational proofs and unveiling allow only for the being of the real, not the existence of the servant and the engendered things. This is the affirmation of the real through the intellect. Hence, God is obliterated in the world of the visible, alam shahada, but affirmed in the world of witnessing, alam shuhud. I guess shuhud here means with the witnessing of your mind, your aql, your basira. So he's obliterated in the world of the basar, eyesight, but affirmed in the world of the basira. I guess that's what he means between shahad and shuhud. Because otherwise, shahad and shuhud sound the same to me. Okay. The root of the cosmos or everything other than God is God. Guys, is that fine so far? This is a bit heavy going, right? Okay, then let's just carry on. Yeah, Zinira, go ahead.
I was wondering if, I mean, this is something I've been thinking about, like the negation. Um, so, because I'm reading Surah Baqarah more now, and in Surah Baqarah, of course, there's the greatest Ayatul Kursi, right? Like where Allah is kind of describing Himself,
Yes.
and He starts off with a negation, Allahu la ilaha illahu. And so it's like, and there's so many laws, right? It's like throughout there's so many laws. And it just reminded me because I read this, I mean, I watched this reel on Instagram and they were like, we shouldn't like that mainstream in combating mainstream stereotypes of Muslims. You shouldn't say, oh,
Yeah.
Muslims aren't this or that. Your like, your, I guess they were saying your narrative shouldn't be apologetic. You shouldn't be like, oh, Muslims are not terrorists. They are not this. But
Yeah.
and it should be what we are. But I'm thinking about like descriptions in the Quran, especially the description Surah Baqarah of the cow. There is so many
Yeah.
laws in that. And so I mean in Ayatul Kursi itself is like Allahu la ilaha illa hu al-hayyul qayyum. There's no God except Allah. And then la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Sleep and like yawning does not take him.
Yes.
La ya'uduhu hifdhuhuma. He's not tired by by protecting the heavens and the earth. And then when
Yes.
they ask, like, what is a cow like? لا فارض ولا بكر. Literally, the first one is like, لا فارض ولا بكر عوان بين ذلك. Then it's like, لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها مسلمة لا شية فيها. I missed that last line again. So it's like, oh, she's this cow that is, she does not work the farm and she does not feed the crops or whatever. And she's not, she's middle-aged. It's not just like, oh, she's middle-aged. She's not young and she's not extremely old.
Yeah.
And it's like she's spotless, but like he says, musallamatun, she's whole and sound. La shiyata fiha. There's no blemish on her. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think in that description there's more laws than there is affirmations. And so it's like in terms of actual action, I just like thought about, I mean, I think there's like a lot of, I don't know, there's something really powerful, I think, about negation, like rhetorically, right? Because it's like saying, oh, God is always, and even in the dua of Arafah, which we just went through Arafah, لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وهو حي لا يموت. He's alive. He does not die. لا شريك له. He does not have a partner. He could have just said
Yes.
وحده, right? But it's like وحده لا شريك له. There's no, this is the God that does not have any partners. And so I think when it comes, I think there's like rhetorical power in that, saying, oh, actually, look, it's different from saying Allah is awake all the time, and that's different from saying he does not even, yawning cannot even come to him, right? So it's
Yes.
like, but then with the cow, I was thinking it's also like if the cow, the negation are probably more useful in finding, because in finding that object of inquiry, because then it's like, oh, if someone has that, then that's not the cow, right? So it's like musallamatun, she's whole and sound, la shiyata fiha. There's no blemish on her. So if you find a cow that has a blemish, that's not the one. And then so it's like, oh, if you find yourself worshiping someone that is yawning and sleeping, that's not the God.
Oh,
So it's
subhanallah.
so
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know. I was just thinking
Exactly.
about if there's anything else where they speak about like why negation is so powerful. So perhaps sometimes more powerful. I mean, it starts with, right, like La ilaha illallah, like our Shahada starts with that. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Can
Very
I
interesting.
add something shortly?
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
sure thing. Yeah.
About what Zanira said, about the part with, and he does not have any partners. I always
Yeah.
thought that it's kind of a correction from what Christianity got out of Jesus' message. So I always assumed the phrase comes a as a correction to what was understood about God, since it was the last revealed religion, monotheistic religion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, of course, but also correction to Arab polytheism as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I always assume that that specific phrasing was very much like it's very much intentional with the negation.
Yeah, totally. Like it's got multiple purposes. Um, just like what you're pointing at, and Zanir was highlighting some really interesting nuances. Yes, Zanir, go ahead.
So I don't really think so because first of all, I mean, of course, it's relevant to that, right? But I think that would most relevant would be like لا تقولوا ثلاث. I think where Allah says don't say three, that there's three gods. Basically, don't affirm the Trinity. But in general, like if we look at the reality that the Quran is a spoken word of Allah, it is eternal. So Allah said all of this before the Christians or anybody was doing anything. So Allah chooses to say, La ilaha, like even when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is told, like say that La ta'budu illa Allah. Like their first commandment is not a commandment. It's like it's a negation. Basically, it's it's a prohibition. Don't worship except Allah. And so it's like, I think it's about Bani Israel as well, that like when we took your ahad, لا تعبدوا إلا الله لا تشركوا مع الله شيئا. And then it's like وبالوالدين إحسانا. So it's like, and do good to your parents. That's a positive, that commandment, right? But لا تعبدوا is actually don't worship. So it's like, it's not like worship God. It's like, no, don't worship anyone else. So I don't know, there's like some inherent universal value to it. And of course, it applies to many polytheistic cultures. But also, I think the Arsh of Allah, I think it's La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is supposed to be a treasure from it's somehow connected to the Arsh of Allah. I don't remember exactly how. But yeah, even La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, it's like, it starts with Allah. It's like saying there's no power, there's no movement except from Allah. And I think that itself is so powerful because I think one of the reasons that the way that I understand these negations is that and why they're so powerful to us living in this world of illusion is because we cannot see God. So we cannot say, oh, God is here, but we can see false gods. So we have to say first, La ilaha, because that false God is in our face, like the idols or like whatever, or people who thought Isa alayhi salam was God, he's in their face and you can see them. And so, and even La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, you cannot see the power of God, like as obviously as you can see maybe the power of a really oppressive regime. So then when you see that, then you have to say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So like it's like the way that we can engage with the physical world and bringing you back, that illa brings you back to like, the invisible God. So it's like, and that's why I think in the previous world, on the Yom Alest, because we could see God, we said Bala Shahidna, yes, we testify, because we could see, but here we cannot see. So it's like, what are you going to affirm? Like you can't, actually see that there's a heaven or a hell here, right? And that there's going to be a day of judgment. So then you have to say,
Yeah,
oh, it's like, yeah,
I got you.
that's the way I understand.
Yeah, no, totally. I get you. And I get your point. Thanks. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, so let's see if we can move on, inshallah. The roots of the cosmos, or everything other than God, is God. The roots of the cosmos, or everything other than God, Kullu siwa Allah, is God. While the cosmos is nothing but the being of God, within which appears the properties of the non-existent entities. So, yeah, we are non-existent, and our properties appear in the being of God. Properties which themselves are the effects of the divine names. So, what we see are the names in the cosmos, right? So, what we see are the names, and the cosmos is the outward form of all the names in differentiated mode, tafsir. Just as the human being is the outward form of all the names in undifferentiated mode. So you see all the names of Allah in the cosmos in a way that's detailed and differentiated. And all the names of Allah are contained in the human being, but combined in a summarized way and in an undifferentiated way, ijmal. Hence, the cosmos became manifest as alive, hearing, seeing, knowing, desiring, powerful, and speaking, because those are the attributes of Allah. It works in His manner, as He said, say, each works according to his manner. The cosmos is His work, so it became manifest in the attributes of the real. If you say concerning it, it is God, you have spoken the truth, for God says, but God through. If you say concerning it, it is creation, you have also spoken the truth, for he says, when you threw. So he kind of like veiled and unveiled. He clothed and bared, removed the clothing, affirmed and negated. He not he, huwa la huwa. Unknown and known. To God belong the most beautiful names, and to the cosmos belongs becoming manifest through them by assuming their character traits. So Ibn al-Arabi likes to quote a hadith about Adam alayhi salam from the collection of Tirmidhi, part of which reads as follows. While his two hands were closed, God said to Adam, choose whichever you like. So Adam replied, I choose the right hand of the Lord, though both hands of my Lord are right and blessed. Then God opened it, and within it were Adam and his seed. He said, my Lord, what are these? God replied, these are your seed, your children. Right? One of the passages in which Ibn al-Arabi comments on this hadith reads as follows. Adam was in that hand while he was also outside of it. Such also is the case in this question. When you consider, you will see that the cosmos is with the real in this manner. This is a place of bewilderment, hayra. He, not he. You did not throw when you threw, but God threw. It's like there's almost like a contradiction to our minds. Would that I knew who is the middle, the one who stands between the negation, his words, do not throw, and the affirmation, its words, but he threw. He is saying, you are not you when you are you, but God is you. This is the meaning of our word concerning the manifest, the dhahir, and the loci of manifestation, al-madahir, and the fact that he is identical with them, even though the forms of the loci of manifestation are diverse. In the same way we say concerning Zayd that he is one, despite the diversity of his bodily parts. His foot is not his hand, but it is Zayd when we say Zayd. It is the same with all his bodily parts. His non-manifest and his manifest, his unseen and his visible, are diverse in form, but each is identical with Zayd and not different from him. So his outward is like his foot and his hand. His inward is like his memory and his intellect, for example. All that is Zayd. And then he says in another passage, the other, al-ghayr, is in reality affirmed, not affirmed. He, not he. Like that's the shortest way of putting it. Guys, any quick questions? And then what we can try and do is see how long this section is. It's probably going to be long because we're on the section of imagination, which will take some time. So we can try and read up to dreams, or we can just do another couple of pages, I think, and see how it goes. Because like we have like 10 minutes left. Yeah. Any quick questions? Okay. Inshallah. Okay. Ghada, go ahead. Yes.
Just a quick question. Does it revolve around وحدة الوجود, everything here?
Oh, everything here? Oh, this is totally وحدة الوجود. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Not just this chapter. All the previous chapters were all وحدة الوجود. But as you can see, like, it's so detailed. There's so much to say about it. So there's more than one way of looking at it. So now you're looking at it from one particular point of view, which is like huwa la huwa. That's one way of looking at it. So imagination. According to Ibn al-Arabi, the reality of huwa la huwa finds its clearest expression in the cosmos through imagination, khayal. In dreaming, for example, which is a function of imagination, a person sees corporeal things which are not corporeal things. I mean, that means like physical things. So he sees physical things which actually aren't physical things. The objects he sees possess corporeal forms, yet they dwell not in the world of corporeal bodies, but in that imaginal world, which is the soul. So imagination can take a meaning, a ma'na, that is a reality of the world of intelligible things, without any outward form, that means from the world of spirits, and give to it a sensory form, surah mahsusa, as we will see in detail below. Does that make sense? This occurs in spite of the fact that in normal circumstances, meanings and sensory forms are mutually exclusive, since meanings belong to the world of intelligence, the world of spirits, and are free of any sorts of matter or substratum, madda, while sensory forms belong to the external world of corporeal bodies. Like they're very different things. They don't really meet one another. Because the world of the bodies is physical and dark and dense, whereas the world of intelligence and spirits is light and formless and luminous. The following description of the three kinds of possible things may help to clarify the distinction between meanings and sensory forms. Among the possible things, there are three levels of known meanings, ma'lumat. A level that belongs to meanings disengaged, mujarrad from substrata. Substrata means like forms. So meanings that don't have any forms covering them. The characteristic of meanings is that rational faculties perceive them through proofs or a priori, بطريق البداية. Guys, in case that's confusing, so like, what does it mean to talk about meanings disengaged from substrata? Like, what does that mean, right? Like, if I look at an object from the world of the physical world, a chair is a chair and a table is a table. But in the world of meanings, right, our mind understands a reality that comes from the world of meanings without us necessarily seeing a form. So what's an example of that? Like al-iman, faith, such concepts. Your mind and your heart can perceive it, but it doesn't have like a physical form. So that comes from the world of spirits and meanings. God's attributes, sifat, that comes from the world of meanings. It doesn't come from the physical world. His names as well, al-asma al-husna. So for example, knowledge. Knowledge comes from the world of meanings, right? And knowledge, like, does knowledge have a physical form? Not really. It's only when knowledge comes down, it goes down to the level of the imagination, suddenly knowledge takes form, like milk. But when it is at its own level, which is higher in the world of meanings, it has no form. Ravina, go ahead.
But sometimes it feels as if, okay, knowledge comes from above
Yes.
to the physical world, and then sometimes we take it from the physical world. It is like, I don't know if this might be a good example, but for instance, we analyze the cells and how they function, and sometimes we reach meaning out of their biology too. So it feels as if we gain knowledge and we gain the meaning through the physical reality in a way.
No, that's 100% correct. Don't get me wrong. We gain an abundance of knowledge from this physical world, but that's not its origin. The origin of knowledge is from the world of spirits. The physical objects are their doorways. That's why we are embodied. Without the bodies, we can't understand what the physical things, without the bodies, we can't understand what the meanings mean. So the corporeal world is the doorway to us understanding the meanings, the disengaged meanings, right? Otherwise, how would we understand them ordinarily? Of course, you can understand it through your own spirit. That's a different story. Like if you're a very talented saint and wali, but not but the reality of knowledge, its haqiqah, doesn't come from this world. It comes from the higher world. And then we get a glimpse. We get a glimpse into that higher world through the physical objects. And then someone who does not get a glimpse, he gets a full-blown view. He's someone whose spirit connects to the world of spirits. His intellect pierces through into the world of spirits. He gets a full-blown view. But for us, we get a glimpse through the physical objects.
Thank you. Beautiful.
And what you're describing, Irvina, is actually called inference. We infer things in that way, isn't it? So deductions and inferences. That's what it is. Sahar, go ahead.
Um, the one actually I read about Carl Jung, who spoke about the dreams, and he said it's all it's all an expression of the subconscious. I'm not sure because what was shared here before about the, the Saturn, that there are dreams from the Saturn, there is three dreams from God, there is, but isn't it all from God at the end of the day? Isn't it all from the subconscious? And as well, it could be either like our subconscious or the world's subconscious. Like it could be something from the past, for example. That's why Carl Jung, he said that, what made him do explanation of his dreams, studying the myth, the asatir, the myth and
Yeah,
legends
yes.
and the cultures of other
People.
other people and
Mm.
like the old civilizations, because we can catch on something from the past or something because we're all connected at the end of the day, right? I mean, it's like we're all wired. It's our subconscious, and it's the whole, like uh, the whole world, not the whole the history that, so we can access this or that. So it could be, so by actually paying attention to the myth and legends and cultures and other civilizations, maybe we can link like the dots. Like for example, if I see someone called Faris in the dream, or if you come to me in the dream, so maybe
Mm.
it's not you, it's Faris. It means Faris, not you. Like
Okay.
the meaning of your name, I mean.
Ooh, وبيتنا.
So yeah, so what's your intake on that, Dr. Faris?
Feminine.
Tina, you want to say something? No? Okay. Um, so that's super fascinating, Sahar. Uh, so that's called the collective unconscious. I've
Yes,
not studied
yes.
I've not studied Carl Jung that much, but there's so much fruitful, you know, stuff we can get out of Carl Jung. There's so much that we could like really benefit from by studying Carl Jung. But what we have to do is we have to make our tradition, Islamic tradition, speak to what he's been studying. And the person who's been doing that is CD Dr. Samir Mahmoud. He's the guy you want to watch out for because he's been establishing a dialogue between the Islamic tradition and Carl Jung and Jungian psychology. Not just him, other people too. But him that I know of, especially. Uh, so Allahu Alam about the collective unconscious. I don't know. But it's true to say that all of it at the end of the day is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you can still distinguish between a dream that's Rabbani and a dream that's Shaitani, nonetheless. You can still make that distinction.
Yeah,
And
I
therefore,
get you.
and therefore, we know how to react. We know how to react. If it's a dream that's shaitani, you spit to your left 3 times, right?
Yes.
And you ignore it. You don't tell people about the dream. And if it's a dream that's Rabbani, it will shake you. And it encourages you to become a better person and encourages you to draw closer to your Lord, right? If it's a Rabbani dream. But Carl Jung is super fascinating. I wish I knew more about him. But the man for that is Dr. Samir Mahmoud for sure.
Thank you so
Uh,
much, Dr. Faris. If you can share it later on the group chat, I would really be grateful. Thank you so much. I mean, his name is
Samir Mahmoud.
Samir Mahmoud. Okay, I'll search him.
Yes,
Jazakumullah
yes.
khair.
To the pride of Lebanon, he is Lebanese. So the Lebanese people know him, of course. But he's actually Lebanese and Australian. If I find a video, I'll send it to the group, inshallah. Yes, Irvina, go ahead.
I think Zanira is before me.
Okay, Zanir, go ahead, and then Irvina.
I just wanted to say about what Irvina was speaking about, like, for example, studying science,
Yeah.
material science, I guess. Yeah, so I was just thinking about in terms of like how we know that it's not coming from, like, you know, how you said, like, we know that it's not coming from the material world, it's coming from, I guess, the alim al-ma'ani or whatever. I think, first of all, there's a need to differentiate between, like, if that's even ilm or like khabar. Like, I don't know if it's, I don't know, I'm not sure. But yeah, maybe it could not actually be ilm that, you know, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Um, but maybe it's just a khabar. Maybe it's just like a news that we have, right? Maybe it's not, according to Allah, it's not ilm, because some things are like expertise, but they're not necessarily ilm. But and according to also Ayatul Kursi, Allah says, لا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. So like gaining knowledge or receiving knowledge is an essentially spiritual pursuit, or like it's a spiritual receiving, because Allah is saying that I'm actually covering everything. You're not going to cover anything from my knowledge except for what my Mashi'a has. And the way that I would like demonstrate that is by like an example or like a hypothetical situation where if we have the cells, right, or whatever. I think Irina was speaking about like a lab, a science lab. The cells are there, and like I guess the experiments are there, whatever. Even if you like observe it under a microscope, if the person observing it is, for example, um, dead, then they're not going to gain any knowledge, right? Or like if you just put a book next to a dead person, they're not going to gain any knowledge. So that shows you that it's actually not the body or the material world that is teaching anything. It's actually the spirit needs to be there in order to be able to receive it. But also there needs to be a certain level of like receptivity in terms of intellect, right? Because if you show it to a baby, they have a spirit, but they probably also might not be able to understand. So it's like, it's of course coming from, and again, like, because the reason why I say I don't think that's ilm is because it's a very fleeting, like, again, quote unquote, knowledge of like what some material stuff of this realm, like, which is so limited, right? And I think knowledge is like, Allah's knowledge is like what every single thing that's going to happen since the beginning of times until the end of time and afterwards. And so that, I think, is like, you know, the real line that the awliya are trying to receive from God, right? Like what God is and how He has been manifesting and will keep manifesting. And for that, and that's why we try to increase the spiritual capacity of our body's capacity as well to receive. That's all.
Got it. Thanks for sharing that, Zanira. Thank you. MashaAllah. Um, okay. Yeah, that's certainly something to think about. Irvina, you mentioned in the chat Dr. Samir Mahmoud's podcast on Young is very good on this. Could you share it with the group, please?
I already did.
Fantastic. Yeah, and go ahead. Listen, let's make your question the last question. We'll finish the paragraph and call it tonight.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I have just two things to add.
Yeah.
First is about the dreams, and the second one is about what Zanira right now said. I don't know if I agree with Zanira when she said that that's not ilm. Maybe it's because when I was studying biology at high school, and when I was reading about the heart, for instance, I could grasp many things what Imam al-Ghazali was talking about the heart, the spiritual heart via the physical heart. When you analyze it, you understand the contraction and the expansion through the heart. If you understand how it keeps the body alive, then somehow by analogy you can understand the contraction and expansion that God makes us live throughout the life. So there is somehow an ilm, overflowing there, and I think that of course, that the spirit recognizes it, and if we divide ourselves only with a physical or with
Okay, I don't want to like get embroiled in the, I guess, uh, sensitive question of like what counts as knowledge, which is very briefly, whatever is an object of knowledge is knowledge, period, on some level. So if we can know about it, then God definitely knows about it. Like, we'll stop. Just on a very simple level. Even if it's a false object of knowledge, then God knows that it's something impossible. So whatever we can know, whether it's true or false, He knows it. But like full stop. Um, what it tells you about God is a different story. Okay, so one is the level that belongs to level spirits. Two, a level whose characteristic is to be perceived by the senses. Those are the sensory things. So you've got the non-sensory things, which are the meanings, disengaged from substrata, on the one hand. Number two, you've got the physical sensory things. Number three, a level whose characteristic is to be perceived either by the rational faculty or by the senses. These are imaginal things. They are the meanings that assume shape, تشكل. They take on a shape, a shakl, and sensory forms. They are given form by the form giving faculty, القوة المصورة, which serves the rational faculty. Okay? And we'll just stop there, inshallah ta'ala, guys. And if there are any further thoughts, please put them into the chat room. Jazakallah khairan, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. And see you next time, inshallah.
Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم.